What is happening, everybody in the YouTube land? This is Ro from the Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast. So we are live. Let's warm up the chat. Let's see who's out there. We've got DJ. What's up, DJ? Hope you're feeling good. Andrew, thank you for joining us. Star Wars Steve. What is up? Ubaldo, Rural Farm Boy. Say that 10 times fast. Rural. And yes, Andrew from the Science Fictionary is here in the chat. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Yes. Oh, yeah. My son, I walked into his room and he goes, wait, I gave him a hello this afternoon. And he looked at my jersey and he goes, wait a minute, sports? I'm like, not quite. That's as far as I'll take the sports thing there. But absolutely. Thank you for joining us. We're going to be talking about Ahsoka episode 7, Dreams and Madness. And I hope you guys brought your notes because we're gonna ask the chat group to give us some takes and see what we got. But first, we had a couple of different guests on the show. We had a full house, and we will come back in a minute to meet everybody that showed up. Absolutely. We'll talk to you guys in 30 seconds. Hold on.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
Absolutely. And to join me on this evening of nerdy geekiness is my pal Josh from the Quest Me podcast. What's happening, brother?
Oh, nothing. Just admiring that awesome opening video. What? That was great. And here I am changing my hat. Like I was wearing a Broncos hat because I was like, oh, Bro doesn't really do sports. He's got some jersey on, but I have the I do the sports. So
yeah, that's fine. That's fine. To each their own.
Yeah.
And
thanks for having me on for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Too bad your partner couldn't make it. But we got life that is happening. I had a big surprise. My original co-host was going to also show up, Brad, but life throws you little curves, and Sean was going to make it, but he is also indisposed with some space whales or something.
Nice.
But yeah, let's chat. Who's in the chat? Some more people showed up. Patrick Griffin, thank you very much for coming on by. And it's funny, this jersey I wore. So every year we have to get our media police credentials updated. So you got to go to Chicago Police Department and take your picture. And then I just happened to have this one on the day that I was scheduled to go take my picture. So my media ID's got me and little Darth Vader and 77 jersey. So that's kind of funny.
And it's the Raiders colors, so it's just the worst.
Too funny. All right. Yeah. So I wanted to let's get down to it. Part 7, Dreams and Madness. I wanted to get your take real fast though. What do you think the title signifies here? Because I think, we in the past, we've always kind of, taken the name of the title and seeing to see if, break it down and see if it means anything. But Dreams and Madness, what do you think?
Well, I think it kind of harkens back to when Balin was talking about this is a land of dreams, and did he say dreams and madness? Isn't that what he said?
Oh, did he? Is that what he said? I watched it like 3 times. I didn't catch it.
Well, maybe he said it's like a land of fairy tales or something like that. But
Something
I feel
like
like
that,
it
yeah.
kind of harkens back to that.
Sure.
And we're learning a little bit more about this planet, maybe. At least that's what I thought at the beginning, and then it
Right.
didn't really pan out that way.
And do you feel like the episode was too short, that they didn't kind of
No,
jump
I
forward,
actually
like-
have been liking the lengths of the episodes. They're much more like your hour-long TV show. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
it's
like
45 minutes, 46 minutes, whatever it is, and it's if you add a couple commercials in there, that's a
Sure.
hour long. So
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Andrew
Cool,
says,
thank you.
yeah, he does say that. All right, cool. But
so
it's
then
funny
it could,
though.
I mean, in that sense, then this episode kind of tells you that it's going to be about Balin. 'Cause
Yes. But is it?
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
it
let's-
kind of is.
It kind of is. I mean, it indirectly, I guess, but we'll get to it. I wanted to. I've got some broad strokes notes here, but they finally find Ezra, as we saw last week, and
How boring was that? Oh my god! I wish that he would have come out of nowhere and just started like messing up the bandits or whatever to save Sabine.
yeah, he's just like
kind
standing by his hut, anticlimactic.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. What's up, Andrew? Thanks for coming by. I'm sorry, not Andrew. I read Andrew, but I meant Charles.
They're all the same, right?
They're all the same. Charles, Andrew, same thing. But before we get into the faraway galaxy, there was a wonderful scene on Coruscant, and I'm always happy when we go back to Coruscant, to the city planet here at in a galaxy far, far away. I absolutely love to see the buildings, the technology, the cityscape. Obviously, I'm from Chicago, so I have to kind of love the city. But those Coruscant court scenes, and it's funny. We get that first scene where Hera is kind of on trial. They're holding a hearing to see if they should strip away her military rank, her powers. But here she is continuing the long-lived tradition of insubordination that seems to be prevalent also in the sequels with Poe and Holdo. But what do you think of that? I mean, I think the whole insubordination thing, and I know a lot of people that have been talking about that particular aspect of Star Wars military, I guess, and stemming from the sequels, how that type of insubordination kind of, I don't know, doesn't work for them. But what do you think about it in this case?
Well, I think Ziono just has something to hide a little bit, and he's trying to keep things under wraps. Like, I hate the fact that he's gonna live through this whole series because we see him in Resistance later.
Right.
But I kind of think this is all his idea, that he's the one that wants to just shut down these old rebels, because he's trying to create this peaceful republic, and so anyone that doesn't follow the rules needs to be put away.
Yeah, and there's a line that Hera says, she's got a warning. She says, I don't know what frightens me more, and that's a great line. I think that is one of the things that Star Wars does great. I always talk about Star Wars and politics. I'm not into politics, but I love Star Wars politics. It's interesting. I love the back and forth, the characters, the maneuvering. And we've got Mon Mothma. We've got she seems a little bit of a different character in this series than she is in Andor. I think Andor.
I think she's a little more stoic in this. She's just a little more.
Yeah, like deer in the headlights almost.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah.
Something like that.
Speaking of the Republic, I love this new trend that's going out where people ask their significant other, how often do you think of the Roman Empire? And I go, I don't think of the Roman Empire ever, but I think about the Republic and the Galactic Empire all the time.
I asked Danny, one of our other Red 5 members, Comics and Cosmetics, I asked her if that was like a euphemism for something. Like how often do men think of the Roman Empire? I'm like, is that code for something else? I don't know.
Nah, it's just some new dumb trend that's going around.
Yeah, but that's too funny. So, we obviously, since the series started, everybody was asking where this takes place in the grand scheme of things. We finally got some timeline reference.
That was a big
Um,
topic of debate on my show for a couple weeks.
okay, how'd you
Figure
guys
out
discuss?
where it was? Well,
Yeah,
we, at first we kind of thought that it was in between season 2 and 3 of Mandalorian, like because Morgan was going off to wherever she was going. So, like, I had assumed that was right after Ahsoka had captured her in what was that, episode 5 or something of
right.
Mandalorian.
Yeah,
And so, like, I was under the impression that it was in between those, and maybe even before Book of Boba Fett.
mm-hmm.
But then, people started talking about Grogu seeing the Purgles and
Right.
how, oh man, that's probably Ahsoka and those Purgles. And I'm like, there's no way that it's that far ahead. And then here we are figuring out that this was set after the Battle of Mandalore, or
Right.
the conflict on Mandalore.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think without the series having, and I know a lot of people wanted to have some sort of reference even at the beginning of the series where, they talk about putting up like a what do you call it? A text on screen that says,
Oh,
this
yeah.
happens, whatever. But it's 17,
1780Y.
right. So it's nice to have finally a reference here.
Mhm.
But that also goes to my one of my original questions is, where is Zeb?
Well, we found out in the episode because Sabine had told Ezra that he's training recruits. So
Yeah,
he's got to be on the Adelphi base or whatever,
right. Having a
training
drink and training.
training people, or maybe he's training people on the Outer Rim or something. Isn't
Sure.
Adelphi on the Outer Rim?
Yeah, let's
I don't remember. I don't have Phil here. I don't have my fact checker here.
consult the data pad. But we jumped right in. I forgot to ask to have you tell folks in the chat what's your podcast, where you can be found. I'm sorry about that. What a bad
Totally
host.
fine.
Who are you? Who are you?
My name's Josh. I run a little show called Quest Me Podcast. We take you on a quest through legends and new canon of Star Wars. Been doing it for a while, and I love talking Star Wars. So
Absolutely. Been on your show a couple times, discussing some cool Star Wars things, but yeah, absolutely. Check them out. Let's see here. Ambrose, thank you for joining us.
looking here, Outer Rim.
We got Ambrose. All right. So that scene in the courtroom was pretty significant for a couple of things, but what is one thing that stood out to you? Go.
Chopper is still just hood as hell.
Yeah. Chopper is ghetto.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that whenever Ziono, and I don't know, can I swear on this show?
Yeah, yeah.
When Ziono said mirror droid, you could just hear Chopper going, "You raggedy bitch!" Like he was gonna hop up.
I know, yeah.
Start beating him.
Yeah. Captain Ted was like, hold up a second.
Yeah, but no, really. I mean, C-3PO is the standout here.
Absolutely.
C-3PO and Admiral Akbar being there on that council as well was a pretty big standout. We've found out on our show that was actually Anthony Daniels too.
Yeah,
which is really cool that he actually came back and reprised his role.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
like Thrawn, he's gained a little bit of weight in the
in the upper
neck
area. Yeah, and it's funny because they shot him in a way that wasn't super flattering. They shot like upwards, and then you can see him like stretch his head up to look at the council.
I wonder if that's due to him just being older now, because he was always so good about leaning back. You watch the old trilogy, and that's all he did was, like, when he'd talk to people, he would basically lean back.
Yeah.
So I wonder if that was kind of some sort of, they wanted,
or just the staging, or I don't know, something. But yeah, it was wonderful to hear Anthony Daniels' voice in the background while the scene was going, and then you can hear kind of right. Yeah, that was fantastic. And I think I watched it the first time with my son, and we were like, "Oh my God, is that really him?" And then the scene kept on going, and I'm like, "Oh, this is great." And then Kevin Kiner's music kind of kicks in, and just in time to tug on those heartstrings.
Yep, that little what do you call that? Would it be a medley? The Star Wars medley that he puts in there just briefly. Yeah, it's really nice. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Actually, at least we
Yes,
get to see a little more Akbar in this compared to Last Jedi. I think
sure,
we had
sure.
more screen time of Akbar and Ahsoka now than we had in Last Jedi altogether.
Yeah, that's funny. Ah, good
Sorry, I don't mean to
old.
bring up a sore subject.
Yeah, bringing the room down. All right, so C-3PO comes in with a message from Leia, which was kind of cool. I mean, you know what's funny? Obviously these characters are legacy characters. There's a certain feeling that we get when, even when we just see C3PO on screen. It's not the big screen, it's the small screen. Star Wars is on the little screen
Well,
nowadays, and
depending on the size of your
right,
TV.
yeah. But it's interesting to me because I don't know how I feel about having these larger than life characters on Star Wars TV. It's and I know like sometimes it makes sense. Obviously, the season 2 finale of Mandalorian, we get Luke Skywalker, which was pretty damn amazing.
Incredible.
I think it's I was talking to somebody, if the story warrants it, then yeah, okay. Like in Mando, the story warranted the fact that Luke Skywalker should have been the person to come and get Grogu, and I know they were hiding it forever, but I think it really did make sense that Luke had to be the one to come. So, and in this case, it's interesting too because what did they call Leia? Her position was she's the leader of the Defense Council,
Oh yes.
and I guess that makes sense. But how do you feel about all of these legacy characters on the small screen?
I'm actually way okay with it. I love seeing them, seeing more of them. All I've wanted since Return of the Jedi was to see more of those characters.
Yeah.
That's why I read all the books, and I actually wanted to flip that on you and ask you, what would you think if that was actually Leia that came through?
Well, as a recast actress,
Yeah, like we kind of had a discussion about would it be okay to recast characters like that? And would it have made more of an impact with it being actually Leia instead of C-3PO?
I think it definitely would have had a great impact. Somebody just put up hold on a second.
Oh, the hologram.
Yeah, Dave Richards showing
Yeah.
her message as a hologram would have been a nice touch. I think that would have been amazing. And I think,
Yeah.
The hologram would have forgiven a little bit of the special effects, Uncanny Valley, situation or whatever. But I think
Right.
that would have been amazing. I think that would have been great. I always have this discussion. What's up, Danny? Thanks for stopping by.
Who would you cast?
Oh, I don't know,
if they
but
were to recast Leia.
yeah, I don't know.
I'd go Billy Lord all the way. Their daughter.
Yeah. But
exact same.
there are people like Price of Reason, leave the legacy characters alone.
I get it.
But again, I think it's all going to depend on the narrative. I think if it fits the story, then it would make sense to see, whoever. I think I always have this discussion with guests when people ask me about recasting the original trilogy actors. I am like so on the fence because I love technology. I love seeing Grand Moff Tarkin in Rogue One. I loved seeing,
Have you
Luke.
seen that lately?
No, I haven't seen it lately. And again, I mean, for what it is, it's it's still kind of like embedded in my mind as kind of a cool thing. And again, because of my background, professionally, I love the technology that goes into it.
Yeah,
but
that was the first time they really did
Right.
that for a film, I think. So
Yes.
I mean, of course, it was the rough draft, basically of
Yeah.
But going back, like I'm watching Rogue One and thinking about Rogue One, I see Grand Moff Tarkin. I see whatever his name is, the actor that
Peter Cushing.
that played. Yeah, I
Yeah.
see him. But then I watched Rogue One the other day and was like, oh, that is rough.
Yeah.
So they've come a long way for sure, and I think now would be a perfect time if you really wanted to recast. I mean, Luke Skywalker, they did it pretty flawlessly. There were a couple little like lip weird twitches and stuff like that, but
I'll ask you. I'll ask you
could
the
do
same
it.
question. I'll ask you the same question you asked me. Have you seen it lately?
The Luke thing.
Yeah, because it. I see a lot of stills on Twitter of Luke during the Mando shows, and
Have they cleaned it up?
well, even the stills give me a weird, uncanny
Oh, okay.
valley feeling.
Yeah.
Um,
I'll have to go back and watch it again. I
yeah,
usually once a year go back and watch those episodes. So
yeah,
I'll have to do it. But yeah, it was. It's a little weird, but it's still super nice to see my favorite characters.
yeah,
Luke
absolutely. And
even
and
in that aspect.
yeah, and I think that's one of the aspects that kind of keeps me in the don't recast them camp,
Yeah.
because I just love. I mean, somebody mentioned Indiana Jones 5, and for better or worse, I mean, that was kind of still cool to see a young Harrison Ford in a brand new Indiana Jones movie. Whether it
Mhm.
worked for you or not, it was still, it was still kind of cool.
I still need to watch that movie. I haven't watched it yet.
You should at least watch it once.
Yeah.
That's really all you need to.
That's how I felt about the fourth one. Was I gotta at least watch it once.
Yeah. All right. So let's get back to Ahsoka. Somebody mentioned, and I think thank you very much, Charles, for bringing us back on track. We've got
about
that
that.
wonderful sequence of Ahsoka doing a little lightsaber rehearsing, practicing with holographic Anakin.
Yes.
And again, getting back to seeing legacy characters, I think inserting Anakin, in this way was a really great idea to be able to have done so in the show. I think obviously Hayden Christensen has returned for the Obi-Wan series, and shot these scenes for the Ahsoka series, and I think it's wonderful. I think it's wonderful to see that actor back, on screen for this. And I think it's let's see, Dave Richards, I think mentioned that it makes sense to kind of have these actors back. But what'd you think of that little training sequence?
Did you notice how Canadian he was?
Yeah,
Canadian
right.
accent came out pretty hard in this, but I really enjoyed it. It seemed like it was more beginning of Clone Wars Anakin. His outfit was a little more from that first movie, first season. So I kind of think that he recorded all these training sessions because he didn't want to actually train her. He was like, I'm going to record a bunch of podcasts that you can listen to later on, but
Yeah.
I don't want to do this right now.
Yeah,
So.
and she did mention that this was the one that we happened to see in the show was the last one that
The last one.
they recorded.
Mhm.
But it's a nice little Easter egg when she went to go put that disc away, that you can see a whole bunch of them, in that
Yep.
little box that he.
It's like her own little trading card box that she
Yeah,
has, totally.
yeah,
Also, did you see all the lightsabers that she has in that
yeah.
cabinet?
Hmm.
I don't think Ezra's going to have a hard time finding a new lightsaber.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to ask you that, and we'll get to it once we get to the Ezra part. But all right. So we agree that the Anakin Ahsoka training sequence was pretty cool.
Yeah, and I also agree with Star Wars Steve in the chat says give Hayden a series. I would love to see a live-action Clone Wars series with Hayden Christensen and the actress that played Ahsoka. It was really good chemistry. The scenes worked really well.
Yeah, I think
even
so.
though in a way you kind of could tell that the budget was cut there, because you didn't see, you could hear all the big droids in the background, but you couldn't really see them. So
yeah, and actually, I thought. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Finish.
no, I was just gonna say it was just a little like, this is great. We're in Clone Wars, but I want to see the Clone Wars right now, not just the smoke.
And the way I justified it is that they were in kind of a dream sequence where a lot of that background was muted off to the distance. Because we really wanted to focus on the two characters that were talking to each other. So I think it was great that you did hear the battles in the background. But I think for the purposes of that particular episode, I think it was great just to kind of focus on the immediate vicinity, because I think their conversation was important. Their lessons were important, and like you said, I think the rapport between Hayden and young Ahsoka she did fantastic. They both did really, really great.
Yeah, and this is also Because I know that we had talked about trailers. The line that Anakin says, "Where you will fight more than just droids in this," that was in a trailer. So there's only one more scene left that we have from the trailers to see, and that's Thrawn walking onto the Eye of Sion.
Yeah.
So I think I'm just hearkening back to the episode that you were on with us when we did the Ahsoka preview series, and you had said that they gave away too much in the trailer. That you kind of felt like that.
Yeah.
And I think now in retrospect, maybe they kind of did, but I think they did it in a really good way, where it still was.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I think nowadays they cut trailers and they give. I mean, you can watch a trailer for 2.5 minutes and know what the movie's all about.
Yeah,
and
Marvel
sometimes
suffers with that real bad.
Yeah, and then sometimes it's like, okay, like I know what happens at the end. Why even, I think what is that racing movie where the kid is first a video game racer and then he's a real racer?
Gran
Formula.
Turismo?
Yeah, Gran Turismo.
Okay.
So I watched that trailer and it had everything, like his training, his video gaming, and then he crashes once and then he recovers, and then he's all of a sudden he's in the winner's circle with women around him. I'm like, well, I just saw the whole movie.
Yeah. Yeah, there are a lot of trailers like that where you're just like, I don't really want to watch this anymore. I'll wait till it comes to streaming. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. All right, so we're done with the training sequence, and they arrive. They arrive to their destination, and oh no, space bombs! Poor space whales.
I thought it was going to be much more of a slaughter than it was.
Yeah, it didn't seem like it bothered them, other than, what does Monty Python say? Just a mere flesh wound.
Just a flesh wound. Yeah.
Just a mere flesh wound.
It was like they were trying to itch the mosquitoes off them.
Yeah.
Oh, this is annoying.
One of the cool things is when first of all, all the space stuff is really nice looking. I really enjoyed the space battles, the dogfights. There's a certain shot in Star Wars, and I think it started in The Empire Strikes Back. They have been kind of redoing. Hold on, I got to get my Millennium Falcon.
Is it the spinny trick? That's a good trick.
No, it's a shot. It's a shot where there's a ship that goes by and it avoids something, and then it goes by the camera and it goes, and then it goes away. And they did that in this episode, and I think that's one of the cool things I like about, just little Easter eggs, little homages to like previous shots. By the way,
Filoni really knows how to tug on the nostalgic strings for sure.
By the way, this is my iPhone charger.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Yes.
I love it.
But yeah, you're absolutely right. I think Filoni especially has a nice way of kind of throwing stuff in for the fans. That's not necessarily, I know there are other directors that would just throw in like fan service just to, here you go.
Looking at you.
Yeah, right. But Dave Filoni, I've heard interviews of him, and he really talks about, we can put some stuff in there, but it's got to make sense. And I think for the most part, he, he's accomplishing his goal, whatever it is.
I think he's done a fantastic job with this whole Filoniverse, and it seems like now he's kind of going to be on his own. Like Jon Favreau was there at the beginning to kind of help him get it started, and now it seems like Filoni's just taking the reins and going with it, and I think he's doing a stellar job.
Yeah.
The nostalgia, the music he's using, the actors that he's picking. I mean, the story that he's lightly basing this story off of the original Thrawn trilogy. So that's giving us those that was my original sequel trilogy, was the Thrawn books.
Right.
And he's giving us a bit of that without just throwing it in our face and shoving it down our throats,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, all right. So we get back to the Star Destroyer, and they are loading up some bodies or some coffin type things.
Someone said that they were. Someone on the internet the other day said they were kyber crystals, and I was like, what?
No.
Where are they gonna get kyber crystals?
Right. And why would they put them in a coffin?
Yeah.
I mean, I think. Obviously they are kind of like undead zombie somebodies, but specifically who are they? They can't just be special stormtroopers, because I don't know why.
No, but it could be a bunch of Marocs,
Yeah, but
where they're gonna raise like force. Although I don't think Maroc was actually using the force. But
well, I mean,
battle ready warriors.
right. I mean, he called his lightsaber back when
Did
Ahsoka
he?
kind of like,
Or
was
did
it,
he
or
use
is it just like
magnet
a
on his wrist?
could be
'Cause
like
he hits
a
a button on his
boomerang?
wrist, yeah, and then he throws it and then jumps. So
Yeah.
I still am skeptical about him actually being force sensitive. I
Yeah,
think
that's
that
a
was a
good
little bit
point.
of a red herring.
That's a good point. And Andrew's got a point. We didn't see any green fog when any of them were killed. So I do think that they are just regular old stormtroopers.
The night troopers, yeah, for sure.
Right. Yeah. Um,
They got help with their armor, and they've probably been training with the Night Sisters.
yeah.
And have some sort of, I mean, that didn't really look like it. They were just the same old stormtroopers in this episode. So
Right.
if they were doing any training, it was pretty bad.
Yeah. So I want to ask you this because this kind of goes, it's connected to, I guess, our insight as to what these coffins are, these things that are being loaded. How much of this story overall, as we've witnessed in the Ahsoka show, how much of this story do you feel connects to the sequel trilogy and Snoke and all that stuff? What are your thoughts on that?
I think it will connect. I think that what Filoni is doing right now is making it work. You know what I mean? He's going to make the sequels make sense somehow. Because Palpatine somehow returned, and we got to figure out how. I do believe that, like, in my own head canon right now, I think that Thrawn is going to be the one to find all the Star Destroyers that are on Exegol, and that's what's going to be our Katana fleet. Like, he's going to be looking for that fleet to take back to Palpatine, but of course he'll be killed or something, and so they have to wait a long time to actually get those cloning procedures done. So, but I do think that he's going to have a pretty big part in the First Order. Like, he might even give the First Order, if you know what I mean.
Right. And then somebody says, hey, that's a good name for a new fleet, a new government, a First Order.
Right. But I also think that Thrawn is just going to be the mini boss. I think there's going to be a much bigger bad when we get to the Filoni movie. When we get to the conclusion of this whole story arc, this whole Filoni verse.
Yeah.
I think Thrawn is just going to be like the Loki to,
to whoever,
Thanos.
So are you saying, because I guess that was my next question on the notes, Balin has been hinting that there is something else, calling to him. And obviously now in this episode, we really do get a different MO for Balin and Shin,
Well,
what
did you see the people that deciphered what was written on the temple?
Yes, and we had a really long conversation on Twitter a couple of days ago regarding that. And I think for me, to satisfy my curiosity with that, I went back and forth with a lot of people on Twitter, and I think it is just an art department's fun way of giving the fans something. I don't think
from Jedi Survivor, they're just doing some sort of thing.
Some little, here's a little Easter egg.
But I mean,
because why would it be Chewie and not Chewbacca?
No, I'm talking about what was written on the actual temple, not his.
Oh,
not
yeah.
his wrist.
Yeah, the temple.
It was talking about Kujet, the ruler of all.
Right.
Raise him from the dead. Blah blah blah. And then you see like the bandits and their armor, and they're very similar to what the Zepho looked like in Jedi Fallen Order and stuff. So I think there's something. It's gonna have something to do with that, with the Zepho, and maybe even Kujet. Maybe that is gonna be the big boss, as Kujet.
Yes,
at the end.
And I'm not too familiar with that story. I know Andrew just posted, I think the runes talking about Kujet are a really cool nod to the Zepho. They seem to be trying to connect the Zepho and the Night Sisters, but I think it's unrelated to whatever Balin is after. This entity could be still calling Balin,
Yeah.
to a certain degree. I mean, I don't know if you
Yeah.
remember the lost episodes of the Clone Wars where Yoda goes and
Oh, yes.
uncovers
The
um
lady, whatever her name is.
yeah. No, and the other one where he goes and uncovers the Starth oh, what the hell's his name? Mark Hamill played him. Somebody in the chat help me out.
Plagueis? No.
Was it Plagueis? No.
Oh, I don't even know. I don't remember the lost episodes.
Yeah. But
I remember liking them, but
yeah. Anyways, yeah, Abeloth, if that's how you pronounce her, is another character that has been mentioned. And again, these are characters that I'm not super familiar with, but I do feel like, the runes on that temple were pretty, in your face. So it's I do feel that between now, or between the end of Return of the Jedi and the beginnings of the First Order, there does seem to need something different than, having all this kind of lead to the First Order. I don't feel like the sequels are having any impact on the actions that these characters are going through. Maybe back on Coruscant, a little bit, but I think for the most part, the bigger picture, the sequels really have no bearing on these stories whatsoever here.
right. Yeah, they're just gonna again. It's just these are just they're gonna make the sequels make sense, but it's not going to affect the overall story from this Filoniverse.
Yeah. So
Like
no.
they'll throw some little Easter eggs in there to be like, oh, here's Luke's lightsaber. This is how Maz Kanata got it. Hopefully, that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Thank you, Andrew. Darth Bane.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he was supposedly trapped in his crypt. Yoda opened it up. They had a little conversation. So I can almost, when archaeologists get to an ancient burial ground and somebody accidentally opens up a Pandora's box and things come out, it's almost like I feel like whatever entity that is calling to Balin is doing the same thing in this case. So
you think it could be the Bendu?
No, I mean, I talked about that with somebody too, because the only thing that would really intrigue me when it comes to the Bendu, Balin did talk about that he was searching for something that would stop the process of, rise and fall, something
Right.
that would stop that. The Bendu was very into, there is no dark side, there is no light side, I'm the one in the middle, all that stuff. So it's
He was the grayest of grays.
yeah, and it's I'm like trying to finagle it in my head, like how would the Bendu kind of facilitate the ending of the process. I mean,
Yeah,
on a surface level, maybe you can explain it away, but I'm not sure.
Sure. And speaking of the Bendu, this is something I forgot to bring up on my last show, but we were talking about the coffins and what could possibly be in the coffins. I do think it's going to be like Night Sister magic, bringing the dead back to life, and they're going to be kind of like dead, the undead. There's a specific line that Bendu says to Thrawn where he says, "I see your defeat," in a cold embrace or whatever. And I'm
to Thrawn.
I'm kind of starting to wonder if he's going to get killed by his own little army, by his own undead army.
Could be. And, during that scene of Rebels, now knowing that they were taken off by the space whales, I feel like, you can make the connection that the death was going to be by space whale.
Sure.
But now, obviously, Dave Filoni kind of can reconfigure things and shuffle ideas around. So that's actually a good idea there.
Because I don't think Thrawn's going to get killed by any of the main characters. I think they're going to pull Timothy Zahn, and he's going to be assassinated by one of his own.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it would kind of be anticlimactic for him to be just killed by one of the characters. I think it has to be something a little bit more magical, more mystical, more
Right.
powerful,
Right.
because it's got to make an impact. Um, Real fast, do you see us waiting a year or so for a second season of Ahsoka, or do we jump right into a movie as
I
promised?
I think we're gonna get a season 2. I think we're gonna get a Mandalorian season 4, Ahsoka season 2, and then the movie. And there might even be something in between that too. But now, I mean, with the writer strike finally ending, we only lost a couple months
Right.
of writing and filming and stuff. So I don't think we lost too much as far as time for
Sure.
releases.
Yeah.
But people seem to love this, and they love Mandalorian. So
Sure.
I would assume they're gonna probably fast track a lot of these things.
Yeah. It seems like out of all the Star Wars on the small screen, besides, well, for me, it was Andor, top tier Star Wars.
Absolutely.
I think Ahsoka has been a favorite for a lot of Star Wars fans. So it'll be interesting. And, interview with Rosario Dawson says, if the fans love it, we get to do it again, which obviously signifies a second season of the show, if that were the case. Patrick Griffin.
Enoch kills him. See, and that would make sense because
That would make sense. Yeah.
Paleon, I think, killed him in the old trilogy. Spoiler alert.
But everybody screenshot this shot here because Patrick might be right.
He's calling it. Yeah,
He's calling it right here. Dave Richards, yes, it's very Star Warsy.
Well, Enoch is a clone of Ezra, so it doesn't even.
I want to get to a couple of things that I noticed. Obviously, Thrawn learns that Ahsoka is alive after, I guess.
This is my favorite part of the episode.
Yeah. So it's interesting to see Thrawn's reaction when he gets the news about who Ahsoka's master was.
He dropped a dookie, like a fat dookie, when he read that. He was like,
right.
Oh, what?
Yes, absolutely. And I want to ask you, do you think that he's going to use that emotional connection against Ahsoka in a way that only a master tactician can?
Most likely he's going to try. I mean, Baylan tried and it worked. She definitely got upset when he was taunting her with it.
Yeah.
And I would assume Thrawn's going to bring up, your master killed kids. How do you feel about that?
Right.
I am curious to know if when Thrawn looks at the pad and says, "Oh my God, Anakin Skywalker is her master," and then asks Morgan if it's only one ship. Are you sure it's only one ship?
I just noticed that tonight.
Is he talking about Luke? Do you think he's like thinking that Luke came with her? Because clearly he knows that Anakin's dead because Darth Vader's dead. He knew Darth Vader was Anakin, and Morgan coming out and telling him that the Empire was defeated, Darth Vader died, was killed by Luke Skywalker. Like, I would assume he put all of that together. He's a very smart guy. So I'm curious to know if he was thinking if it was Luke Skywalker.
Well, I'm gonna ask the chat. Let's put that to the chat. So yes, I circled that in my notes. Thrawn asks Enoch, "Are we sure that there's only one starship?" And I'm thinking, well, who else is he talking about? Like, who else would come with Ahsoka if he learned that Ahsoka's master was Anakin? Who do you think does? Thrawn has been exiled there for many, many years. How does he know about Luke Skywalker, though?
Well, I mean, Morgan, you had to have filled him in. Hey, the Emperor was killed. Luke Skywalker blew up the Death Star. Luke Skywalker, this. I mean, he's the most famous dude in the galaxy for blowing.
And he kept his last name, so that was an easy.
Right.
Huh.
I like that he thought or the thought that it was the ghost as well.
Oh,
Dave
yeah.
in the chat says the ghost maybe.
You know, and as Star Wars nerds, we might be digging too deep, and that actually might be the answer.
Absolutely.
Yeah, since you know, obviously,
But he knew
wait.
Anakin was Darth Vader because
Yes,
he figured it
'cause he
out
worked-
in the Ascendancy trilogy. He
Right.
worked like really closely with Darth Vader and kind of put 2 and 2 together.
Right. Yes. So, but that was,
Boba Fett.
yeah, Boba Fett. That would be, yeah. Can you? I can see the fans collectively raising their arms, going, "Oh, shit again." Yeah,
Just comes
it's
in
too
with
funny.
Fennec. They're like, we're here
Yeah.
to save the day. Oh, that's great. Dropping seismic charges the whole way
Yeah.
through.
All right. Again, on my notes, all the space stuff looked really great. The battles, I liked that the mothers find Ahsoka when Ahsoka is using the Force, and the mothers find her while she's Force connecting. I think that's pretty cool, and I think Palpatine had done that in the Rebels series to kind of find Ezra as well.
Yeah.
When he was doing all his blue magic mumbo jumbo.
Kind of makes me wonder if he knew Night Sister magic as well, if he knew like how to kind of work that.
Yeah, could be. I think, you know, Palpatine was one of those characters who is a couple of steps ahead of everybody else. So absolutely, I wouldn't doubt that.
I do wonder why the Night Sisters are calling Thrawn Lord. Night Sisters used to not ever give a shit about, you know, people in the Empire or that sort of thing. Like, what is Thrawn doing for the Night Sisters to get so much of their help?
Do you think they perhaps maybe saw the future and realized his fate, his destiny, his...
Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, but I guess that's another question: is what would be his destiny?
Right. And again, you know, that's going to depend on how much time, you know, when he does get back to the regular galaxy, how much time does he have to, I don't know, to have a successful mission to kind of set something up that is going to affect the galaxy in this way.
Well, there's already a Shadow Collective. Since this is set after Mando season 3, there is already the 9 or 10 leaders that are just waiting for Thrawn's return. The only one that wasn't waiting was Juan Carlo Esposito. He was like,
Right,
I don't know who this Thrawn guy is.
Yeah.
But he was like the guy from that old video, Leroy Jenkins. You know, everyone's like, no, wait for Thrawn. We're going to wait for Thrawn to get here. And he's like, no, fuck you.
What was that? Yularen. That was Yularen was part of the Shadow Collective there in Mando. General
Yes.
Yularen.
Yep. And then Paleon Hux was part of that.
Right. I was scoping the interwebs, and somebody had mentioned, somebody had asked how Yularen knew that Thrawn was coming back if he was exiled. And again, I guess, you know, since Elsbeth was kind of running around in the Mando show, I guess, you know, she could have told the Shadow Collective or let them know that Thrawn was coming back. So I guess it's
kind of the key to all of that, I would assume.
Sure. I guess the connectivity between, you know, the Imperial remnants and the ones that need to know, you know, that Thrawn is returning. Yeah.
That it'll be really exciting to see that come to fruition, though, to see how that all works out. So the more of these shows that come out, it seems like the galaxy just gets smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
There's so many of these Imperials. Like, where are they parking all the Star Destroyers? Like, they get
Right.
No one's turning this in.
Totally. Those nomads look pretty cool. I love their outfits.
Yes.
The howlers look amazing.
The turtle crabs or
No. The turtles are just turtle crab people.
No,
but what are they called?
looking guys with the cool
Right.
helmets and the.
Yeah, I like that. At first, I thought they were. I don't know if you remember the Corsair in The Force Awakens. They were a band of
Oh yeah.
mercenary types, very
Mhm.
similar red, kind of
Yep.
helmets like that.
You know, what's also similar to those helmets is Hu Yang's head.
Yes,
He's got a little bit of a curve
of a
to
little
that.
twang thing there. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So we get to Sabine and Ezra doing a little running away from those guys. ILM released that a couple of seconds of that race, that chase, which it kind of worried me a little bit. It didn't look really good, and obviously limitations of the volume. But I think in the greater scheme of things, when you put it into context, I guess it didn't bother me as much as just seeing it out of context. Just a couple of clips. I think stuff like that, like technically, I think has to be planned out well, because you have to figure out what am I doing in post production, and then how am I loading the volume with footage, and then what do I need to have in front of the screen to make it to sell the shot. But Andrew, I mean, it was no Vespa chase. It was cool, but yeah, it's again, coming from a technical aspect, I always kind of take a look at those things and how I feel they're planned out, or the lack of planning. But I think for the most part, this was not as bad as I initially thought. How cool is it to see the gunships in real life?
Yeah,
I love those
gunships.
Yeah,
Yes, that's so much fun. And it's such a good callback too. But it also makes sense because that's what Thrawn had when he was exiled.
right.
So seeing all
Exactly.
those older ships it's a lot of fun for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I love. They're very odd looking. They were odd looking in the animation. I think in live action, they're still a little odd looking, but I think in perspective with the stormtroopers as they mount, the inside of the cabin and kind of jump out, kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
But absolutely. So Sabine and Ezra get attacked by the stormtroopers. The Force is with me. I am one with the Force. Sabine tries to give his lightsabers, Ezra's lightsaber back, and Ezra's like, no thanks. The Force is my ally. I saw a little back and forth quips from people that were questioning the fact that Ezra wouldn't take his lightsaber back, but I think in the greater scheme of things, it kind of makes sense. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm a little curious to know if he is a little bit on the dark side. And I'm wondering, I don't know the logistics of if a Sith uses a lightsaber, does that automatically start bleeding it? Or do they have to do some sort of force trick to bleed the lightsabers to make them red?
Now, the bleeding of a lightsaber, I think, has not been introduced to canon yet, if I'm correct.
Okay.
And I think that is a concept that a lot of fans were kind of thumbs down on.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't remember, and I think it was in a book regarding the bleeding.
Yeah, someone I said this on a Facebook page and someone castrated me for it. So
yes.
there's something around there, something out there that talks about the bleeding of a lightsaber. Or
Right.
maybe it was actually in the video game, the Jedi Fallen Order video.
Yeah, could be. Andrew, I'll answer your question towards the end of the show. He wants to know how we came up with the name, the Scarif Scuttlebutt. I'll tell you at the end.
But also, it could just be that he hasn't used it, like Dave says, he hasn't used it in 10 years. So
yeah, and I think that's probably a little not even rusty. I think he I think he chose to kind of like connect with the Force in a little more purified way. Obviously, not having a weapon like the lightsaber for many years, I think he was able to kind of maybe connect. We know that he communed with Yoda in the World Between Worlds, so there is the aspect of really using the Force in a way that maybe no other Jedi has, especially when said Jedi is in exile for many, many years.
Mhm.
But
And it is curious that he didn't take it. But it's also understandable. Like if he doesn't want to embarrass himself, you know what I mean?
sure, yeah,
But then that also like I'm still asking the question, why is Ezra still alive? If Thrawn
well,
is there and with his entire, Star Destroyer full of stormtroopers, why is Ezra alive? How did he get away? And why hasn't Thrawn chased him down yet?
right. That's one thing that bothered me from the beginning is that nobody is talking about how they separated. From the beginning, from the end of the Rebels show to
Right.
now, like, Sabine didn't ask Ezra, so what happened? Like, you guys were zipped up over here with the space whales. How come you guys are not together? What's the story? And then Thrawn does the same thing. He doesn't
Just
offer any
avoids,
information. Yeah. Like,
which
what
leads
happened?
me to believe that Enoch is a clone of Ezra.
Mm.
No, I mean, I'm still kind of a little salty about my Maroc theory just getting shit on. But no, in a way, I think that would kind of make sense that Thrawn got what he needed from Ezra and was like, I don't just go die somewhere, and like released him.
Yeah, but I wish
'Cause-
there was a little explanation because and then again when Sabine meets Ezra for the first time and they do their little hug and how'd you get here? How are we getting home? What's going on? I almost feel like Sabine doesn't even want to go home. She wants to be stranded here with Ezra.
right.
And is she going to be a problem later on when they all decide, how are we getting back? Is she going to be like, I don't want to go back? I don't know. But we got
I
one
mean,
episode left.
you gotta think she'd want to come back, but it is very curious why Ezra hasn't really. I'd be freaking out. How are we getting home? You're
Right.
here. I've been here for 9 years. How are we getting home? Don't give me this bullshit of it's complicated. Tell me how we're getting home.
Right.
And just for him to be so nonchalant about it is a little suspicious.
And I'm wondering too, does Ezra know that Thrawn is still around? Is he alive? Or do they both
Right.
think that each other are dead? Like what the
Right.
hell's what is the story there?
I really hope we get that answer. I know we're getting it left on a cliffhanger in this next episode. But I hope we get at least some of those answers,
Right. And not have to wait for season 2's flashbacks in the back to tank.
God damn it.
God damn, back to tank. All right, so then we get a really interesting scene with Balin and Ahsoka. They meet on the hilltop, and that fight is pretty raw and intense.
That dude is brute strength. That's
Yes.
all he is.
Yeah. It almost seemed like both characters were kind of changing up forms, lightsaber forms, and adjusting to each other as the need arose. And again, I think Balin as a character is intriguing. I think he's what's his name is doing. Ray Stevens is doing such an amazing job. And it's obviously it's horrible that we're not going to get to see him again in season 2. But is Bruce strength. I think that kind of here's something that I noticed. He has a line towards the end of that battle. He says to Ahsoka, "You can't defeat me," and Ahsoka's like, "Maybe not, but I can distract you." And it kind of reminded me of a line from Obi-Wan when he was fighting Darth Vader in the original Star Wars. "You can't win, Darth." And it's almost like he's kind of echoing that line. And if he is echoing that line, did Balin come there to... I know something is calling him, but is he there to sacrifice himself for this calling? Is he there to die and transform himself to something else? Like Snoke? No, I'm just kidding.
Oh my God. Get out of here. Maybe. I don't think he necessarily is going to his death. I mean, the Purgles go there for their death, so it
Right.
could be, something along those lines. But I really think he's trying to find the world between worlds.
You think so?
His biggest thing is he wants to find the beginning.
Yeah.
And if he can go back to the beginning and stop everything from happening, he would. I did like the fact that Balin struck first this time.
Yeah.
Because in the last battle, Ahsoka went at him first, and then
Mhm.
this one, he did not mess around. He was like, I'm just
Right.
going to do this now.
Yeah. Very.
But yeah, the world between worlds is kind of where I'm at with him, that he probably has some sort of idea of what that is, and he has this hope that he can go there and change the past, which would then subsequently change the future. Balin's going to be the one to destroy the sequel trilogies.
Well, he did say you must destroy in order to create.
Yep.
So, no, I don't think that's going to happen.
So many people would be upset. Oh,
I know.
man, that would just break everything.
Yeah. Too funny. I know.
So one of my favorite scenes here is when Ahsoka does say, maybe I can't beat you, but I can distract you. And then Hu Yang comes in
Yeah.
with the flares. I just wanted him to be whistling something as he's
Dun, 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 dun,
Yeah.
dun.
yeah.
Flight of the Valkyries. No.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah. Hu Yang really has turned into one of my favorite characters in this show.
Did you ever know, like, there's a canon, I think it was in the High Republic, you learned that Hu Yang was dropped off in a blue box at the Jedi Temple 20,000
Oh
years
my
ago?
God. No, I
It's
didn't
like
realize that.
Straight canon.
Yeah. Wow. Was it bigger on the inside?
Probably.
Yeah. Wow.
I never watched Doctor Who, so I kind of understand the reference, but I kind of don't.
Okay. I'm sure some folks in our chat will just actually LOL'd. So hopefully. Yeah.
Hopefully.
So yeah, I mean, we come to the end of the episode, but how cool is it to see Thrawn's wheels spinning, just being very tactical about stuff. And he's explaining to Elsbeth, no, we don't need to win. We just need to, time is on our side. It's really great to have seen that in live action. We're really getting a taste of Thrawn's, tactical mind. Between that and finding out that Anakin was the master of Ahsoka, how is he going to use that information? But it's really great to be able to see, him, just kind of looking at the map and moving the pieces and, basically, all right, I'm done. Let's, we got our thing. Let's just do it.
He's got a little twinkle in his eye.
Yeah.
The whole time that he starts getting ready for this battle, he's like, oh my God, I'm back at it. Here we go. All right, let's set up the game board. Draw your 7 cards. Okay, here we go. And then, I actually had a big conversation with Justin on our show on Thursday about how Thrawn was just so excited to be back in the saddle. And you could tell.
Mm-hmm.
You could tell he's ready to go back to some battle.
Yeah, absolutely. So we got one episode left next Tuesday. What are your predictions for that episode, and how do you think this is going to end?
It's hard to say. I know over at Quest Me we kind of had mixed feelings about that.
About the
ending. I think Justin was thinking that they're going to be stranded there, that Ahsoka and them are going to, do something to the Star Destroyer or the Eye of Sion, and they're all going to be stuck there. I really think that they're going to have a battle. There's going to be something that goes on, but Thrawn is going to make it back to the galaxy. Like, he's going to make it back to our normal galaxy. And I think the way that Ahsoka and them get back is going to be stowing away on the side of the Star Destroyer, just like the Falcon did on Empire.
Yeah, I think I said that last week too. That's exactly how they're going to get back. I also feel like it's going to be a massive cliffhanger. We're not going to be able to find out what happens for quite some time. But
there's There's gonna be
Yeah.
lots of speculation.
Lots of
all over the
speculation.
interwebs.
Yep. So that should be very interesting. I think we're in for a long haul here in between seasons. If we get a second season, I think it's so weird to think about the fact that obviously they had mentioned that we're getting a Filoniverse movie. They wrote, Dave Filoni wrote this series, and was he thinking about a second season, or are we cutting to
He had to have been. I mean,
Yeah.
they've been discussing this for a while, I would think. I
Sure.
mean, I would think that since Rebels, I think he's probably had this whole story laid out since Rebels.
And you have to go back to Rebels just to kind of see where his mind was. I mean, talking about the last episode of Rebels when they zip off to a faraway galaxy and, with the space whales, or even, the World Between Worlds episode where, Anakin / Vader fight Ahsoka. I mean, are there clues there to what he, had in store for us? We haven't seen any of Ahsoka's owls lately, and I kind of miss that.
No.
Um,
It's a little interesting that the owl hasn't been around. What the owl was in Mandalorian though. I think you got to see one of the owls in that forest.
Right. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
who knows? Oh, I love the Star Wars Steve over there. Gonna go to ludicrous speed. Prepare ship. Prepare ship. For ludicrous speed.
Yeah, I agree with you, Ambrose. Most likely a second season to kind of flesh things out. I just hope they don't just stretch out for the sake of stretching out because we lost some time.
They want
But
to make more money or something.
yeah. But hey, man, it's a business.
Do we know where Skeleton Crew is going to be set? Is that
Yeah,
gonna be...
it's right, nudged right in here.
So that's going to be part of this story then too. So
Yeah.
we got to get the Skeleton Crew.
But it's funny though, like what we know that the Skeleton Crew is supposedly Goonies in space. We've got these force sensitive kids that need to go back home. How does all that play into this? I don't know. Who knows?
Unless they're force sensitive kids that were captured by a Paleon and they escaped the Star Destroyer. And,
Yeah. That's
They
what I'm
know
talking about,
something.
Andrew. Yeah, they know something.
And hopefully they don't do that. Man, Solo was kind of fell into that line of things where they just crammed a story about Solo. I enjoyed Solo a lot, but
Sure.
it wasn't necessary,
Yeah.
I would love to see Donald Glover show up as Lando at some point in these series. I think that would be a pretty fun little cameo.
Yeah, because
I
he
know-
was
I
in
know
Rebels.
People have mixed feelings about Donald Glover and stuff, but they've already recast Lando, so you might as well use him.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. We'll see.
You're not
I don't
excited about Acolyte. What? That one's gonna be great. That one's gonna be
Oh,
all
actually,
out of the Skywalker saga.
yeah, I saw the trailer from Celebration on Acolyte. It had some unfinished special effects, but it actually looked pretty damn good. Very cinematic and serious. I know there were some images leaked of costumes and sets, which weren't the greatest, but that trailer looked pretty damn hot. It was very gritty. So
It's set on the Sith side, like you're kind of getting the point of view of the Sith, right?
yeah, more or less, and nowhere near the Skywalker saga. So yes, and Dave Richards, no, I don't think Jude Law is another Jedi.
He's another Han Solo type, I would assume.
Yeah, people were saying that he is Lor Santeca as a younger person.
Okay.
That might yeah.
Yeah, but would that? I guess that would. I guess if you can have Ewan McGregor turn into the old Obi-Wan over a matter of 19 years, you could have Jude Law turn into that guy over a matter of 20 years.
Don't listen to actors, Ambrose, unless it's Mark Hamill. Then absolutely listen to actors.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I got in an argument about that with some actor because they had said something confirmed by some actor, and it was the Clone Wars series. There's this rumor going around that the girl that played young Ahsoka
Oh,
has
yeah.
confirmed that they're gonna make
Right.
a series, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
The only people that confirm that are Disney.
Yeah.
So
And she said that her and Hayden talked on the set. Wouldn't it be cool? Yeah, it'd be cool. Confirmation.
yeah, and that's exactly what it was.
Yeah. But yeah, that's too funny. All right. Any other final thoughts on this episode? I mean, out of 5 porgs, what do you give this episode? Let's rate it.
Out of 5, I probably get it. I probably give it a 4.
4 out of 5 porgs.
Yeah.
All right. Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's, I was on Andrew's show at the Science Fictionary podcast the same night it aired on Tuesday. And I think one of the things that I said on his show was that I'm really enjoying these last couple of episodes of Ahsoka because of how different they are.
Mhm.
And not that I'm,
Absolutely.
kind of getting tired of the galaxy proper, but I feel like with the Howlers, with Thrawn, with this environment, with a little bit more unknown, I feel like this environment, this last few episodes are really interesting to kind of sink your teeth into because of how different they are.
It gets you a little giddy, doesn't it? Kind of like
Yeah,
when you were watching Star Wars for the first time, and you're like, "Oh my god,
sure,
what's gonna happen? What can
exactly.
they do now?" You know.
Yeah. So I think that's one of the reasons that I'm really digging these last few episodes. Tuesday's right around the corner, so I think we're I don't know. It's going to be good.
Do you think we're gonna get a
Um,
post-credit scene?
I wish Andor didn't do that because I almost don't want Star Wars to have post-credit scenes.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's odd. It worked obviously for the Marvel movies, but I think Star Wars is so well known for not being able to plan shit ahead of
Mhm.
time that if
Mhm.
you put in a post-credit scene, it's like you're forcing them to kind of jam things in before they know what the hell they're doing.
But if Filoni already knows what he's doing,
Yes, there's that.
and
So
Ambrose says really want Hondo to be their way off the planet. I just want Hondo to exist in live action.
that would be so interesting. Yeah.
That'd be really cool.
Yeah.
If that's how they figured it out. But it's probably gonna be something stupid like Din and Grogu show up and they're like, "Hey, oh my God,
Hey, we saw some space whales in the window.
we followed you."
Yeah. That would suck.
Din's
But yeah,
just a
who knows?
California surfer at this point.
Yeah.
Yo, I brought my kid.
Too funny. All right. Josh, thank you so much for joining me tonight. Talk
thanks for having me.
Ahsoka, episode 7, Dreams and Madness. Check out the show on Disney Plus. Come back and talk with us. Hey, that rhymed.
Yeah.
Um,
And my show goes live every Thursday night. So if you go to youtube.com/@questme, you can like and subscribe to us there. I put a lot of fun videos up too. So definitely come check it out because we get a little animated sometimes.
yes.
Justin and I have thrown hands a few times.
Absolutely. I think I was in your chat on Thursday for the first half of the show.
Mm.
Good stuff.
Yeah, that one was a lot of fun. We had a good friend of ours, Hugh, from the Colorado Springs paper on there.
Too fun. Excellent.
Yeah.
And as always, I want to thank the chat. If you guys have any thoughts on Ahsoka, if you want to leave me a voicemail, go for it. 773-234-8659 is the hotline. Put this number in your Rolodex, put it in your favorites, and give me a call at all the hours of the day. Operators are standing by. Call today. Excellent. Yeah. So next Tuesday we're going to be watching episode 8, whatever that's called, but should be a lot of fun. Any final thoughts, Josh?
No, I'm just excited to have Star Wars again.
Yeah.
And good Star Wars. The sequels, I was so excited about the sequels, and then it just shit the bed. So it's good to be back at a high again with Star
Sure.
Wars. So excited to see where this goes. And again, thank you for having me on. I had a great time tonight.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming on by. Next time, bring a friend, and we'll chat. We'll chat.
Phil's at Death Clock tonight, and Justin had some family stuff to do. So,
damn that family. Yeah. Same with my co-host.
Yep.
He just had a new baby, so I don't. I let him off the hook. Absolutely.
I wouldn't bring the baby on the show.
Bring the baby on the show. Ambrose brings babies and dogs and stuff when he's on the show, so that's okay. Excellent. All right, guys. Thank you, everybody in the chat, for joining us here on the Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast. Andrew, I will let you know how we came up with the Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast, obviously in Rogue One. Rogue One is Brad and I's one of our favorite Star Wars movies, is probably number 2. His is Return of the Jedi. Mine is Empire Strikes Back. And again, Brad is my original co-host. We started the podcast back in 2019 at the tail end of Star Wars Celebration here in Chicago. I went out and grabbed some microphones, and I went to McCormick Place to talk to some Star Wars nerds, put together a show, and the rest is history. Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast. Brad is a sailor. He goes out and does real Jedi work from time to time. And the Scuttlebutt is the talk around the water cooler. And as we nerds like to talk, it is the Scuttlebutt. So Brad is really into alliteration. So we coined the Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast. And that's the Scuttlebutt. There you go, sir. Thank you very much, everybody in the chat. And Josh, we'll catch you next time. May the force be with you. Remember to grab your blaster and your sunscreen, because it's always sunny on Scarif. And that's the Scuttlebutt.